Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're tackling a problem that is probably sitting in almost every single medicine cabinet right now. We're going to look at why our daily supplement routines almost always fail, and more importantly, how behavioral science can finally fix it. Because listen, if you've ever started a new health regimen with the absolute best of intentions, only to watch it completely fall apart a few weeks later, you are definitely not alone. It's a classic problem of workflow optimization, really. Today, we're going to explore exactly why that happens, and honestly, it's absolutely fascinating.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You feel that familiar flicker of guilt looking at the quiet graveyard of half-finished bottles and dust-caked pill organizers sitting on your bathroom shelves. You buy a few things, you're super motivated, you use them for 3 weeks, and then you just completely abandon them. But why do so many of us struggle to stick with these habits? Is it a lack of discipline? Are we just not trying hard enough to be healthy? Well, the crucial takeaway is this. Those abandoned bottles aren't a sign of personal failure at all. They aren't a lack of discipline. It's actually a fundamental flaw in how the products are designed for the end user. For decades, the supplement industry has essentially told a story where the burden of results rests entirely on your shoulders. The unspoken verdict is that if you forget to take your pills, you failed. But the evidence actually points to a completely different conclusion. It's a system design error. Let's look at Section 1, the agitation, fiction versus reality. There is a massive, frankly ridiculous gap between the life these products expect you to have and the life you actually live. The industry basically does their requirements gathering for an imaginary person. Someone who is perfectly calm, unhurried, sitting down with a tall glass of water at the exact same time every morning, just happily and serenely counting out capsules. But the real you? The real you is frantic, managing a car full of kids, answering a text at a red light, and just trying to survive a chaotic Tuesday. You probably skipped breakfast altogether, or maybe you ate it standing up over the sink. A routine that demands a perfect life is always going to lose to an imperfect one. You can really see how the friction just stacks up on a daily basis. It's rarely a sudden loss of motivation that makes us quit. It's the slow, annoying accumulation of all this friction. Think about it. You have to remember multiple bottles, count the capsules, find a glass of water, get the really big one down without gagging, do the whole thing again at lunch, refill that little plastic organizer every single Sunday. No single step is impossible on its own, but stacked together, the routine becomes an impossible fight against an environment that's already rigged to make the drive-through faster than your own kitchen. It's like a clunky software interface with way too many required clicks. Eventually, the user just gives up. And even the physical act of swallowing multiple capsules is a major barrier for a lot of people. It's actually common enough that clinicians often use workarounds, like crushing tablets or opening capsules for patients who struggle. But here's the catch. These clinical workarounds can completely backfire by altering the dose and changing exactly how the ingredient behaves in your body. So for a great many people, simply getting a fistful of pills down is the literal reason the bottle ends up pushed to the back of the shelf. Which brings us to Section 2, the science of habits, beyond motivation. So if willpower isn't the answer, what does the clinical data say actually works? Well, looking at a retrospective study of nearly 1,000 patients, the pattern is absolutely undeniable. Simplifying a regimen, truly optimizing the workflow, creates a large, sustained improvement over 3 full years. On the flip side, systematic reviews show that a heavier daily pill burden is directly associated with poorer adherence. It is an incredibly consistent pattern. When a routine demands less, people stick to it. When it piles on the complexity, they drift away. To figure out how to make our routines effortless, we really have to break down how habits actually form. And spoiler alert, it's not through sheer willpower. It's through cue-response associations. Lasting habits are built on repetition within a stable context. When you repeat an action in the exact same setting, you build a powerful association in your memory that just fires automatically the next time that cue appears. Zero conscious effort required and no daily motivation needed. Now, behavioral science tells us it takes a median of about 59 days for a new behavior to reach peak automaticity. But, and this is a massive but, this only happens provided it's consistently anchored to a stable, existing daily routine. You can't just float a new task out there. You have to tie it to something you already do, every single day without even thinking about it. And let's be honest, almost nothing in your life is more reliably repeated than eating. All right, Section 3, the solution, a food-first approach. If user burden is what makes people quit, then removing that burden is our entire job. This is a total game changer. Instead of a floating supplements that demands a completely separate daily ritual, relies on your memory, and fights against the very way human habits are built, let's look at the alternative. Anchoring your supplement to a meal borrows a highly reliable cue that your day already contains. One approach requires discipline you basically have to summon out of thin air. The other, it just piggybacks on a behavior you're already doing. By simply changing the format, we completely transform the user experience. Look at this new workflow. You sit down to eat, you stir a targeted nutritional powder right into your food, and you effortlessly build an automatic habit. You seamlessly integrate health support into a meal you were already going to eat anyway, removing the friction entirely. It suddenly feels like just a normal part of a meal, rather than some tedious medical event. And, this food-first format also beautifully corrects our mindset by putting supplements right back where they belong. They are meant to support a solid foundation of real food, not replace it. This is a brilliant shift because it ends that weird psychological divide between the pharmacy and the meal. It prevents us from using pills as a kind of pass to eat terribly and try to make up for it later. It perfectly aligns taking care of yourself with the simple act of eating well. So, if there is one crucial takeaway from this whole explainer, it's this. The most scientifically advanced, incredible formula on Earth is completely and utterly useless if the friction of taking it leaves it sitting on your shelf. The failure isn't you. The failure is that these products were designed for a person who doesn't actually exist, and they burdened you, a strained user, with trying to make that mismatch work. As we wrap up today, I want you to think about your own daily routine and ask yourself this final question. Are you going to keep blaming your willpower and fighting an environment that demands absolute perfection? Or is it finally time to leverage behavioral science, demand fewer steps, and let your natural habits do the heavy lifting? Design a routine that is actually light enough to survive a hard day, and you might just find that consistency becomes incredibly, wonderfully easy. Thanks for joining me on this one.